Hello everybody, it's Tas and welcome back to my channel. Today we are moving on in my Avatar: The Last Airbender series. So far I have already done the Southern Water Tribe and I did the Southern Air Temple, which is Aang's home, and then I was kind of thinking about what I wanted to do from the Earth Kingdom, and originally my very first thought was obviously to do Ba Sensei, and I was looking at photos and I was like, you know what, Ba Sensei is like massive and it's always been shown as being absolutely huge, and I didn't want to kind of take away from that because I think that that's kind of important to the storyline. And then I also thought, well, I did Katara and Sokka's home, I did Aang's home, so it kind of makes more sense to do TOPH'S home, and so that's what I decided to do. And this is TOPH'S Estate. If I try and say her last name, I'm absolutely going to butcher it, but that's how it technically goes by. It's her last name and then estate, and it's a very, like, boxed in, hidden from the world, elegant little Earth Kingdom, like, village looking area, because I believe in the show all of, like, her servants live there, and her family's very, very wealthy, so she lives in, like, this little palace, basically, and she isn't allowed to leave the walls. And I remember in the show, she is, like, getting taught by teachers in there, she has tutors there, so she really, like, doesn't leave for anything, and she has to keep her earthbending very secret. I think that she escapes the walls at night and uses her earthbending and goes off and fights people, and that's kind of tough. I will say that, like, at the beginning of TOPH'S introduction to the series, I really wasn't a huge fan of her as a character, and I know that a lot of people are not going to agree with that because people love TOPH, and I will say that, like, she grew on me. It's definitely one of those cases where she grew on me, but in the beginning, her introduction as a character was very weird for me, and I just wasn't in love with her character. I didn't like, she was a very different kind of character to be a main character, and I think that that's what's important in retrospect to, like, look back on and think about for these kinds of TV shows. Like, this TV show, The Last Airbender, is like a kid show that talks about so many things that adult TV shows are, like, even afraid to talk about, and this one was, like, literally aimed at kids, and it didn't dumb it down even though it was for children. And I think that that's awesome because there are so many cartoons that are just so dumb. Like, I am a huge, like, hater of Family Guy. I cannot stand Family Guy, and Family Guy is a cartoon that's for adults, but it's super, super dumb. And my boyfriend and, like, everybody that I know loves Family Guy and will watch it all the time, and I'm not gonna sit here and say that I won't, like, turn it on like it's a horrible TV show and I'll never, absolutely never watch it, because I will, but I don't think it's as funny as everybody thinks it is, and it's just so dumb. Like, when I'm watching it, the humor is so stupid, and I'm more of, like, a South Park type of person. Like, I like the in-depth humor, the humor that's, like, low-key making fun of somebody. When I was growing up, South Park was, like, my go-to cartoon when it came to, like, adult humor, even though you shouldn't be watching South Park if you are younger. And I think I was, like, in middle school watching South Park. That's how long South Park has been around, by the way. I think it's in, like, its 20th or 30th season or something crazy like that. And I would watch that, like, a lot. And I would even buy episodes off of iTunes way back in the day when you could still do stuff like that. Actually, I'm sure you can. You probably can do stuff like that, but nobody does that anymore. Nobody actually buys, like, episodes off of iTunes anymore. I don't think, at least. Let me know if you do down in the comment section below, but I definitely don't. And I think it's more popular to just, like, stream things, like sit down and binge a whole episode of something or a whole season of something. And one that I can, like, remember from my childhood very, very vividly is sitting down and binge watching Dragon Ball Z, all, like, 290 something episodes. It's a very, very, very long anime, and I was, like, into it. I watched Dragon Ball growing up a little bit here and there, and then when I got a little bit older, I was like, you know what, I want to sit down and I want to watch the whole series and really understand it. And in one summer, I watched the entire series from season 1 all the way to season God, I don't even know how many seasons there are. I feel like there's like 10, but it ended up being like 200 or 300 episodes, and it was insane. Like, I had to watch like 4 or 5 episodes a day to make it into the summer, and I don't even think I finished it during the actual summer. I think that I had to go a little bit into the school year to finish it off, but that was like one of the longest binging sessions that I ever did. And that was like, I didn't have a TV or a way to hook my computer up to a TV, so what I ended up having to do was download all 9 seasons or so off of this like piracy kind of thing called LimeWire, which got shut down not too long ago. I feel like maybe 5 or 6 years. Actually, it was probably longer ago than that. I'm so horrible with like time, but I'm not condoning piracy, and I'm not condoning like stealing things, but when I was growing up, it was a lot more difficult to get your hands on things like that. And what I mean is that, like, you could go to a store and probably find Dragon Ball Z, like, the whole season in box sets. The only thing is, it probably wasn't going to be the real version, and I actually was purchasing them. Even when I was that young, like 10, 11, I would save up $40, $50 to buy like a whole season just so that I had it, because I was a huge fan of like digital copies, even from being young. Like, I'm a huge fan of it to this day. I love to have I love to have physical copies rather, not digital so much. And so I would buy the seasons, and then I would find out later that the Dragon Ball Z seasons that we get in the United States are very, very doctored from the actual TV show. And I started to notice a major difference, because once I found that out, I started to compare the seasons that I had compared to the seasons that I had downloaded off of LimeWire, and they skipped a lot of really great stuff and a lot of like the major storyline. Well, I guess they skipped a lot more of the details, which is what people didn't really want in the box set. It was like cut out for time and for obviously storage space on the CDs. So that kind of really ticked me off, and I'm not a big fan of watching like a cut version of an anime. So I went on and downloaded all 9 seasons. It literally took like 4 or 5 days. And then the only way that I could watch it was by sitting in front of my computer in some nasty like chair, like a computer chair, because back then they also didn't make like really, really nice quality computer chairs, and a pair of headphones, because I didn't want to be blasting it through the whole house because it was right in the middle of the living room. So I had a pair of headphones that was plugged into the computer, and I could only like lean back a certain amount because then it would unplug from the computer. And I remember thinking of like so many different ways that I could sit down and watch it, because it started to get uncomfortable, and I would like push the couch up to the computer and literally sit there and listen to it, and lay on the floor and like angle the computer screen down at the ground so that I could like lay flat on my back and watch it. So lazy, so like awful way to spend your summer in retrospect, but I'm glad I did it because I got all the way through it, and now I can say that I've watched the whole thing, which is like difficult to do, and I've watched the uncut version at that. So I think that that's like even cooler, because even in the US has this horrible problem with taking really, really great animes and adapting them for American audiences and cutting out details. And in my opinion, that's just a horrible way. Like, it's totally butchering it. Even like Sailor Moon, one of those animes that like I grew up on, I absolutely adored growing up, and to this day I still love. When I got a little older and realized that I was watching Sailor Moon from Cartoon Network, I realized that I was watching a cut version of the show, and obviously the names are a lot different and everything is translated over. They don't do it so much anymore, but they still definitely do it a little bit. They'll change certain things, and I don't like that. I like to watch stuff in their original form, and I think that it should become like general practice to not do that anymore to animes, because in my opinion they're like works of art, and when you change them a whole bunch, you're literally changing somebody's art. And I think that they have to give the okay when they do bring it over here to allow that kind of stuff to happen, but I don't think that you should change anything, because it should be shown in its original form. And I'm a big fan of that in general, like across all platforms for everything. Even if something is a little bit more considered, a little bit more like inappropriate in modern times, like it doesn't age well, I still feel like it's really important not to change anything from anything ever, because it's so important to like document time and remember things and remember history, and not change history just because we don't like what it is when time moves forward, if that kind of makes sense. So I ended up going back and rewatching Sailor Moon as an adult, the uncut version, I hope, because it's so hard to get your hands on like a full copy without like literally watching it in Japanese, which is something that I can do, but I'm not a big fan of like reading an anime. I like to actually like sit there and enjoy the storyline and hear the American voice actors like talking. And if it really comes down to it, I will watch something in Japanese and like read the subtitles at the bottom. But I don't know if it's just me. And comment down below if you feel this way too, if you're like an anime fan, but I just feel like I'm sitting there reading and I'm not really getting the full feel for the show. Like I'm not getting the expressions, I'm not getting the little moments because I'm so busy with the words at the bottom of the screen. Like your eyes are down at the bottom of the screen projected onto one thing. Of course, you're not going to get every single detail and see everything. So for that reason, I do prefer like an American dub, an English dub. But if it really comes down to it, I will watch something in its full Japanese form just to get like the real authentic storyline, the way that it was supposed to be. Another one that I would like to sit down and go all the way through, and I actually started at one point, is Full Metal Alchemist. And I was watching that back in the day on Toonami when it would air at night, and they would air one episode a night at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And the problem with that is if you missed one episode, you were done for the rest of the season. Like you would not understand what was going on the following episode, especially with something like Full Metal Alchemist, because it is completely, it's just a very like, it's a difficult story to understand, and I literally remember missing one episode because I fell asleep or I went and did something with my brother, and the following night I went and watched the next episode and I had no idea what was going on, and from that point I never really got a chance to jump back into it, but I would really, really like to. And I think the last one that I completed in my adult years, me and my brother sat down and watched all of Cowboy Bebop together on Blu-ray, which is an amazing experience, by the way. If you love anime, Cowboy Bebop is absolutely one of the top ones, a go-to, an amazing story, and very like focused on art and like a lot of using like art to tell the story and a lot of symbolism and a lot of little things here and there. Like if you pay attention and you watch it over and over again, you'll notice different things every time you watch it, which I think is like one of the coolest ways to tell a story, because then the replay value is like so there, and I really appreciate things like that. And yeah, I've been actually going through that one with Nate, but the problem with watching shows with Nate is that he works like a lot. And when he gets home, he doesn't always want to do anything. He will eat dinner and like he'll hang out, but it's really hard to get him to sit down and like dedicate time to a TV show. And a lot of times we'll get into something and then he will not want to watch it for a long period of time just because he's tired and wants to go to sleep when he gets home. And that ends up being like this thing where we're into like 12 TV shows at once and we never complete any of them, and it's awful and I hate it. And I'm always like, hey, do you want to watch this show? Do you want to watch this show? And he never wants to, but he gets mad if I go on without him, like if I finish a show. Like right now we're currently into The Walking Dead, which I have not completed, by the way. I'm not up to date with The Walking Dead because I wait for Nate. And we were watching Vampire Diaries, which we didn't complete, Legend of Korra, Cowboy Bebop, Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball is a toughie to get through, by the way. I think that Dragon Ball is like just as long as Dragon Ball Z. And I feel like there's so many more shows. Oh, The 100, which is a great show on Netflix if you're looking for something different to watch and something that you're just bored. Go watch The 100 on Netflix. I really enjoy that one. It's not an anime, by the way. But so yeah, we're like into 12 TV shows and we never finish any of them. We started watching Totally Spies on YouTube, which is like an old cartoon from when we were growing up. Not super old, but like older because it was around when we were growing up. And we never finish any of them, and then I low-key like have to finish them behind his back, and it's awful. But anyway, you guys, we're pretty much at the end of this build. Let me know what you think of TOPH'S house and the estate. Like I said, I'm not going to say her last name because I will literally butcher it, and I don't want to be rude. So yeah, this is available for download on the gallery under my origin ID, The Alleged Simmer, all one word. The gallery photos for this are absolutely horrible, by the way, so I hope that you guys find it. Make sure you search me by origin ID. It's all one word, The Alleged Simmer, all together. Don't put any spaces or you're not going to find it. And thank you guys all so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that little bell icon below to turn on post notifications so you can get updated every single time that I post, and I will talk to you all in the next one.